I should say, we're in studio talking about language. Dr. Suzanne Flynn is a professor of linguistics and language acquisition at MIT. She's also a director of the organization we are featuring tonight, which is called LEX America. And go to LEX, LRF, that's LEXLRF.org for details. Also in studio is Elizabeth Victor, the executive director of LEX. And it's a very unique and successful program around the world teaching people of all ages, not just children, language. And we were just talking during the break about the importance of having a good ear. Because as you say, Dr. Flynn, you're not only speaking it, but you're listening to it. Is that something that's trainable? Is that something that's teachable?
Well, I always tell people if you learn one language or you speak your first language, those same capacities and abilities will guide you in learning the second language. So there are some studies with people that look at, whether they have a better ear, whatever that means, that might have some advantages. But basically, if you learn to speak one language, you can learn to speak another language.
Elizabeth, you're very impressive because you speak French, English, Japanese. Any others that I'm not aware of?
A little bit of Spanish.
Okay.
Also,
my question
Chinese.
is more of an observation. You have, I believe, you have a gift. I mean, I think certain people have a gift for music. And do you feel that way? And do you know people who also have that gift for language?
I don't feel that I have a special gift. I have a special interest. I'm motivated. But I think that exactly as Suzanne said, anyone who has learned to speak their first language can speak other languages if they're provided the proper environment, the stimulus to hear the language spoken around them, and they have the motivation to try to speak it.
I was always impressed when Pope John Paul would deliver his homilies in various languages. I don't even know how many he knew, but that also says something to. You don't have to be Pope. It says something to those around you. Can you talk a little bit about what this does for the person's social and emotional health to be able to speak another language? Well,
it allows them to participate in another culture. So that instead of going to visit some other country or whatever, or even here in Boston, you can become a participant and not just an observer of people and not really know what's going on. You can get in there. You can understand the nuance of life within a particular culture or linguistic group, which is so rewarding. And it just, contributes to mental health and mental growth and also connects you to the world in a way that being monolingual doesn't connect you to the world.
Well, in the LEX project, I know a lot of it has to do with the food of the culture, the music of the culture. I mean, a lot of things that have to do with what we all want to associate with, food and music or movies. So, I mean, that's the approach. It's not, how do you learn to say, where is the train station, which sounds like the old school way.
Right. The old audiolingual method. Yeah. Now, this is much more natural. It's like really learning as you did when you were learning your first language in your family.
I do a lot of programs with grammarians. We talk about the English language, which is so crazy. It's a nutty language. And people are still, who speak English, are trying to figure out how to speak it correctly. But is English, on a scale of other languages, more difficult, less difficult to learn, do you think?
No. So as a linguist, no language is harder than any other language. So we're not pre-programmed or genetically programmed to know Spanish or to know English, so that the human mind is capable of learning any language. And so language is different to some degree, but one is not harder than the other.
Okay, so I would think, that an English speaker would have a more challenging time with an Asian language.
Well, then there's a lot of that work also, right? My own research that shows that, once you know one language, what you pick as your subsequent language, what you already know will either enhance it, that acquisition, or you may have to, go back to being a young child again to learn that language.
Elizabeth, are teachers around the world picking up on, and are they using the LEX approach more and more, as well as you guys doing it? But I mean, are you finding that educational experts are looking at this, consulting with you?
We have received some interest. As I think this month in Japan, there's going to actually Suzanne is traveling to Japan, and they're going to be making a presentation to a number of education professionals, teachers and principals. And here in the United States, we've received some interest, especially from Montessori schools. I think there's kind of compatibility there.
It seems, and I know a little bit about this, that the Japanese approach is let's learn language in Japan. Let's do this.
Right.
And maybe we don't have time now to get into it, but I'm wondering if we in America, because there's a lot of debate about whether English should be the national language, et cetera. I don't want to get into that whole debate here on the air, but the idea that we are no longer, with the international communication that's available, sort of ethnocentric. We have to share in this world, and we need to educate our youngins to speak other languages.
Right, exactly. I mean, the U.S. prior to, in the 19th century, late 19th century, was a very multilingual country. And a lot of schools were dedicated to teaching in the language, French, German, exactly. And then with, the rise of nationalism due to World War I and especially World War II, it became un-American in some sense to not speak English. And so what was a very rich tradition has gotten lost and it's become politicized. And I think things are slowly changing now, but it's unfortunate we lost a lot.
At the same time, for a country to survive and thrive, there has to be a continuity of language. So it's a very difficult waterway to navigate here. But I think the point you're making is that it can only benefit people to be multilingual.
Right, exactly.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break for a bottom-hour news update. When we come back, I would like to invite listeners to call in with their stories about learning language, about maybe coming to America learning English, or anyone out there who's experienced the LEX project, LEX project, feel free to join us. The number is 617-254-1030. I'd love to hear from young people, too, who are learning their language and how they feel they're adapting to it. 617-254-1030, should you like to join us. I would just make one request, that you speak English for my benefit, because, I would like to know what you have to say. So we'll take a little break, and we'll come back. Go to lexlrf.org. Or call 6. In studio, we have Dr. Suzanne Flynn, professor of linguistics and language acquisition at MIT, and she's also with the organization LEX America. Elizabeth Victor is the LEX America executive director, and it's the LEX Language Research Foundation. And you just celebrating your 25th anniversary, I understand?
That's
well,
right.
Not you personally. You're barely old enough. But tell me about that, and you have an event coming up as well you wanted to promote. Go ahead.
Yes, so this year is the 25th anniversary of LEX America, and we decided to celebrate that with a lecture series. It takes place in Arlington, Massachusetts, and we're calling it the Arlington Lecture Series on raising multilingual children. And
people can find out more at your website, right?
That's correct, yes.
lexlrf.org, so lexlrf.org. That your organization, LEX Language, involves people, right? Socializing and coming together. In other words, it's not you learn this on your own. You learn this among others.
Exactly. We learn together in a community setting, and families learn together, but the community also kind of provides a family group for everyone. And we also have homestay exchange programs, so you can go and stay with a family. Actually, we just hosted a group of adults and families from Japan and Mexico last week. And it was just short, 5 nights homestay, but it's amazing how the hosts and guests bonded with each other. And I was really moved to hear the visitor from Japan the mother and daughter telling each other they loved each other as they were.
Yeah, that does happen a lot with those exchange programs. Well, listen, this has been very illuminating, a lot of fun, and I know that the research is going on, right, Dr. Flynn?
Right, exactly.
As to how we learn, why it's easier for some, and it must be fascinating for you to explore this.
It's fascinating, yes, and it's fascinating to work at MIT with all of this, too. Given that Noam Chomsky's there and everybody else, but it's really fascinating work. It really is, yeah.
So going forward, you have a lot of events that are on the schedule, and at the LEX Language Foundation, you have a lot of programming, a lot of updates, a lot of events ahead. So best to check the website or give you a call?
Yes, please check our website,
right.
Give us a call. And again, I'd like to mention on Saturday the program on raising multilingual children. And if people can register, registration is free, but we'd love to hear from people in advance.
All right, and that's 617 is the number, 617-354-1140, and the website again, LEX for Lex, LexLRF.org. Thank you both for coming in tonight.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
A lot of fun, and I think the key that I want to leave with the audience is there's no downside to learning language.
No, absolutely not. Just all up.